Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And I did say all the way back at the beginning of this year that I would legitimately be stopped talking about Chris at least as much as I can by the end of this year. So the thing to do is that we're sort of going to do a little bit of a run of like all of the trolls, and there may be one or two articles that I'll find hard to categorize later on, but we're just sort of going to go through a lot of the other major players that I kind of started last year, but we are resuming this year. And to be fair, we are starting off with a pretty big one because I know that a lot of people back in the heyday, they thought that Liquid Chris was probably by far the most significant troll of them all. And it was down to one very good reason, because it forced Chris to confront his single biggest enemy, himself. And considering that Chris, for every single tactic that Liquid Chris would do, it's kind of surprising that nobody ever thought to even try this ever again, because, well, why wouldn't Chris fall for it again? But that's a subject for another day. So let's begin. Now, of course, yes, it was adapted and used, manipulated by trolls, so that's how it is. Also, it's funnier that way. Chris initially wanted to ignore Liquid. This is true. We had to tell him that if he didn't publicly refute Liquid, it could be used against him to steal the Solitude copyright. Chris is lazy and, by default, ignores most trolling. From Marvin, the man in the pickle suit. Liquid Chris, real name Dr. Christopher Morton Duckworth, born July 1990, claimed to be the true and honest Christian Western Chandler, and the one and only creator of the electric hedgehog Pokemon, Sonichu. In reality, he was simply an impersonator on YouTube who initially just made videos to amuse himself and his friends. Chris portrayed Liquid on YouTube and in the PVCC forums, while his identical twin brother, John Duckworth, a musician, portrayed him during the Singstar challenge. Genuinely did not know he had a twin, but that's pretty different. Liquid Chris gets his nickname from Metal Gear Solid, a video game which featured a storyline of the cloned brother of the player character, Solid Snake, hence why Christian Western Chandler is referred to as Solid Chris in this saga, as he will be for the remainder of this page. Eventually, Solid discovered Liquid, and he actually believed that he was an impersonator trying to take credit for his glorious creation, rather than just being an impersonator. Once he was in Solid's sights, Liquid decided to up his game by playing along with his rivalry with Chris Chan, as did his fans, and became a full-time troll. Liquid insisted that he was the real Chris Chan, and those to address his counterpart as the imposter Ian Brandon Anderson, based on the initials of his IBA Chandler YouTube username. Liquid eventually got into fights with Solid over Casey's heart, also probably her arteries, briefly halting production of videos when Liquid was kidnapped by Solid, portrayed by the other twin filming the video, and Liquid made a triumphant return to defend Casey's honor, and they retired from trolling Chris after getting married, both in fiction and in reality. This, of course, saddened Chris for like about 12 hours, though he quickly got over it and moved on into finding another sweetheart after about a day. Okay, I apologize, a day. But then again, considering how long Chris sleeps, maybe we can assume 24 hours at the very most. Prologue. On the 21st of June 2009, Liquid would create his YouTube channel, C-Chan Sonichu Quick, under the premise that he was the real Christian Western Chandler. Solid Chris did not notice his channel at first until July 21st, 2009. Liquid would upload a video where he talked about him selling official Sonichu merch at Otakon, an anime and video game convention. This video caught the attention of Jack Thaddeus, who sent the video to his daughter Samantha stating, "This man was at Otakon. He made some mad cash. He made an opening confession and all. Tell me what you think." In reality, this was Solid Chris pretending to be Sam in an attempt to get his PlayStation Network accounts back from Jack, Upon seeing the video, Solid would rage in the comments and make a response video to Liquid, officially starting the saga. So if you want to see what the opening was, well, real protest against the fake. So I suppose while we have this time, and to be honest, Solid is nothing if not predictable, may as well just watch it. It's not
Captain's log, stardate, June 22nd, 2000. No, I'm sorry, July 22nd, 2009. As you all may have heard about the quote-unquote Christian Weston Chandler that went.
Yeah, I would need to turn this one up because I can't hear anything at all. So here we go.
To the Otakon the past weekend and accidentally uploaded a video of himself in a stupid brown striped shirt with a paper-thin metal replica. Paper-thin. If you want the official merchandise, the medallion is made from clay. Clay! C-L-A-Y.
Thank you for spelling it out, Chris.
And not only that, remember my face? My face. And I'm nowadays wearing a vest and improving my image. Do not buy any more from this crappy imposter. Do not give him any more money. And he says he's going to give it to, quote-unquote, his congregation with my Elizabeth Floss. It's my congregation, not his. Who does the imposter think he is? Down with him. Burn in hell. And worst of all, that nasally voice of his to think he can get away with his mind. He's got another thing coming. But for the rest of you that have been, that are good and true, peace to all of you.
Why anybody who claims to be a Catholic, ladies and gentlemen, or claims to be part of any congregation whatsoever, would be damning somebody to go to hell is a pretty good question. Although, I must admit, the very thought of... Maybe it's less the thought of trying to damn Liquid, but more the thought that Liquid is getting money that Chris felt was rightfully his. Which maybe... Which... Listen, in instances where there is, such thing as like idea theft or, identity theft or fraud or anything like that, why you don't go online, ladies and gentlemen, make videos about it. What you do is that, guess what? You find out, you get a solicitor. You find out if there's a case to be made, and then the solicitor would probably have to sit you down and have to explain to you very, very slowly and very, very carefully that this is not true. Speaking about why didn't Chris just go and find a solicitor? Because this isn't the first time Chris is like being caught in the middle of in a situation like this where there were people who Chris was under the impression were taking advantage of him. I mean, if somebody did this to me, I would honestly, well, to be honest, I would ignore this immediately because I can tell you immediately it's not true. And finally, the fact it all begins right here, and this is exactly what the trolls wanted, because they knew immediately that they actually managed to, well, kick Chris into action to actually get him to do something for their amusement mostly. Though this would work in ways that I don't think the trolls could ever predict. Now, a challenger appears. At the end of the month, a new YouTube account appeared with a simple premise: that the real Christian Weston Chandler, henceforth Liquid Chris, was back online after a long absence during which he lost his account to hackers. So all the weirdness on C-Chan's Sonichu was the work of hacking trolls. At least this is how Chris interprets this. And he announced that he was ready to resume posting honest content on his new account. The new Quick posted 4 more videos, most of which were parodies of earlier videos by Solid Chris. How else would I get fan art if I was not the original creator of Sonichu? Liquid Chris, 3rd of July 2009. Notably, Liquid Chris sported an official Sonichu medallion made out of paper, never Crayola, model, magic, clay, C-L-A-Y. I think it's funny that way. A striped brown shirt. Again, it's kind of funny. I'm going to stop trying to channel Chandler for 1 second. A pair of rather bulky glasses which look ridiculous on anyone else, obesity by means of a stuffed shirt then later removed, a distinctive nasal voice, and autism. I'm not entirely sure what you could do to sport that. I mean, all you have to do is pretend to be I think pretending to be funny is a good way to, like, try and mask autism, because you're trying to convey to the audience that you've said something funny, which more often than not it isn't. And you're trying to sport the idea that you're playing into things like random access humor, or things that perhaps you only have context for and nobody else does. But you say it as though they have context and will understand what you're talking about. See? All of which, of course, made him almost indistinguishable from Solid Chris. Solid himself made no comment, probably because he didn't notice the new videos among the chatter of all the other trolling. The alternative, that Solid just ignored them, is far too reasonable to consider. Or maybe it's because Chris was spending his time trying to worm his way into Casey's pants, but, well, we'll get to Casey eventually. Ian Brandon Anderson. What really cranked this up to 11 was a chain of events that started with Solid Chris getting his C-Chan Sonitude channel back. First, Solid posted a series of videos on the 10th of July 2009, where he called out these trolls by their YouTube handles and dropped their docs, well-dropped supposed states of residence, that resulted in the permanent ban hammer for C-Chan Sonichu. Way to go, Chris. The next piece, oh, by the way, yes, for any of those watching right now, don't do that. Don't dox people. That's a very dick move right there. I don't care if you feel like they deserved it. That's not the way to do things. The next piece fell into place when he posted his Rollin' and Trollin' video on his new YouTube account, IBA Chandler. When it hit Encyclopedia Dramatica, new FAs everywhere momentarily lost control of their bowels, thinking they'd been trolled by a Grand Master. Trolls, however, did what trolls do best. They started rifing on it. Pretty quickly, YouTube comments popped up referring to Solid as Ian Brandon Anderson. Such was the price of success for Solid's small drop of near win in his sea of epic failure. He had delivered onto his enemies a weapon they'd used for months. Even then, the damage control from that episode would have probably kept him from noticing Liquid's videos. Liquid, however, then raised the stakes in an attempt to get Solid's attention. The Quickville War. Clearly somebody has a lot of free time on their hands. Opening shots. The war began on the 21st of July, when Liquid uploaded a video that reeled Solid in hook, line, and sinker. Having sold Solitude merchandise with Samantha Thaddeus at Otakon, a rebuttal was in order. Do not buy... Yeah, this is... well... Do not buy from the imposter. C-Chan, Quick-Chan Solitude Quick, he is crappy, and his nasal voice is just downright awful. Also, if you wanted to buy paper, I'd go to Walmart and buy 500 full 8.5 by 11 sheets for about $5. His church, he must live in friggin' Ohio with Julie, never drives greater than 7 hours just to even visit Wesley Memorial in Virginia. To hell. Solid also took time out of his busy schedule to post threats on Liquid's YouTube comments. The final showdown. Hey dumbass, you wish you were me. It's not even the first time that year that Chris would even say something like that, and I say that's a pretty hard bruh moment right there, saying that people wish they were Solid. I would say you are stuck in minus second gear. I am calling you out. 14 Branch Lane Court, Ruckersville, Virginia, before August 2nd, 2009. If you really want to be me, then come face me. Oh, by the way, your nasal voice is more grating than the word naive and metal nails on the chalkboard. But naive is even worse than nails. You are a nerd and a wimp. Have a good day. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine calling him out and insulting him left, right, and centre, and telling him to feel good about it afterwards. Even at this point, Solid Chris may have let all of this go, as he was simultaneously getting blackmailed by Jack Thaddeus, who was holding his PSN account to ransom. But as that wound down, Liquid caught Solid's eye again, by picking up on the Ian Brandon Anderson meme. Hello again, loyal fans. It is I, Christian Weston Chandler, not Christopher Christian Weston Chandler, as everyone knows I changed my name from Christopher to Christian. P.S. That troll, as some have informed me, his real name is Ian Brandon Anderson. Anyway, I am working very hard on Solitude issue 9, and things may be progressing heavily with my new true gal pal Casey and I. Also, expect more announcements of this developing caliber in the future. Stay tuned, quick. The Battleground. So this is what began the Singstar challenge, and whilst I can't really play any of these because of copyright, the only way the only way I could really explain how this went down is this. Alright, Christian, my brown striped imposter, since you have been able to accept and complete my questions, it is time to issue a new challenge. He then went to shave off his goatee with a dry safety razor. As expected, the contest went to Liquid. Now, for those, I'll just explain to this very quickly. So, what Christian did is that apparently he held a Singstar challenge, which, to all intents and purposes, both sides had to pick 5 songs to sing, and whoever sung them better was the original Christian Weston Chandler. The way these things were judged was a bit weird, and the only thing to note is that, well, I could show you a video about what happened immediately once the contest was over, and spoilers, Liquid won, because why Christian was trusting the ire of trolls, well, he didn't know were trolls, but why Christian felt the need to trust people that he only knew online is a pretty good point in question. But let's get to it. As expected, the contest went to Liquid, the absolute Chad. Also, Liquid could actually play a real guitar, unlike a plastic Guitar Hero controller. As Solid, as always, was a sore loser about it, Liquid had a tally of 4 votes in favour of 2 against. He then took his leave from the competition after announcing a number of personal coups. That he'd finally found a true sweetheart in Casey, that he landed a job as a production manager and game designer at Microsoft for a Solitude game for all consoles. The significance here, ladies and gentlemen, is Microsoft, they are the ones who designed the damned Hexbox, which absolutely Christian hates. That Dark Horse Comics would be publishing his Solitude comics, making him even more filthy rich with the opening of the Quick Store. And finally, that he had decided to stop battling the Solid and move out of his parents' house to live in Redmond, Seattle to continue his happy and successful life. Showdown. You're breaking my balls here. On the 9th of August 2009, Liquid called Solid up and confronted him with the slanderous lies he was telling on YouTube. Solid tried Reason, and when that failed, as Reason always does when it comes to Chris, he threatened to get Liquid arrested for identity theft, dragging Bob into the debacle along the way. If you do not come clean right now, I am to go to get my father in on this further, and you are going to get arrested, thrown in jail, and you will not get to live the peaceful, happy life that Casey and I would like you to live, because Casey really cares for you, man. So, a few days later, Christian decided that, well, Liquid, that he was going to leave the internet forever, and it seemed as if, this was just going to wrap things up, that Liquid was just going to leave, and that would be it. However, this is not, because whilst Liquid tried to leave the internet and was relatively calm about this, Chris was far from calm about this, because, well, this is his rebuttal.
Oh, no you don't, Chris. You're not getting away that easy. You do all that, I will sue your sorry ass. And I'm going to tell Nintendo in Redmond right away to stop you. Because they know as well as I do. I sent them the letter previously, months and months ago, with the original printout of the number 0 book. They know. They have the records. They know. I've been a customer of them for years. They have my money a bunch of times. Long before I met up with Sony and gave them over Mikey, Nintendo has like over $5,000 worth between me and my parents. But anyway, you will not succeed. You are the imposter. You are the imposter. Stop that brown stripe in the shirt with the paper medallion. Stop that imposter. Side shoe and roast shoe are mine alone. I am the Christian Weston Chandler, born with the birth name of Christopher, February 24th, 1982. I'm the one with Robert Franklin Chandler Jr. as my father. I'm Barbara Ann Weston Chandler as my mother. 14 Branchlight Court, Ruckersville, Virginia, 22968 434 990 0198. Stop that imposter bastard that's been posing with my name, my address, my phone number, everything. Stop him. He deserves nothing. Die, you! Especially after that disclaimer video I made, where I told everybody not to buy anything from you. I implored Nintendo, now Microsoft, and Sony, do not buy anything.
It's Chris. It's absolutely fine. You can calm down, and it's still, even to this day, it really does get me, like, surprising that Chris would honestly be as upset about this when it's rousing up this amount of emotion when all Chris could have just done was just go and get a solicitor or go to those concerned. I don't know why Chris decided to handle this the way he did, and besides, the Singstar competition was entirely Chris's idea. I don't know if I thought to mention that or the article mentioned it, but why is Chris getting mad about this? This was entirely his idea. So Chris was the one who came up with the rules and everything. So why is Chris mad? Why are you mad?
Thing from him either. He's the imposter. I'm the real deal. Look at the history on ED and everywhere else. You will rot in jail, mister. You will rot in jail. Nintendo has known me for years. So much longer. Practically my whole lifetime. They know me. And they know you to be the imposter. You go into Nintendo's doors, they will kick your ass out. Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, stop him. Put him in jail. Call the police on him. Everybody else in my true loyal fan base, do the same thing. Please help me. Put him in jail when you see his sorry face. And you know what? Let's top this off. Right now. No shin. We're going with the original. Just for that imposter that has worn the brown stripes all this time.
Yeah, just doing that.
Call the police.
I'll have a better day knowing that I won't have to listen to that, hopefully, anytime soon. So, yeah, that's... Then he tried reason. The Singstar challenge was never to verify who was the real Christian Western Chandler. In fact, to be honest, I think the best way we can take a look at that one is that... I think we can actually just check out the video for this, because I won the Singstar challenge... what was the I'm trying to find out what video it was that that Chris put out, because okay, so we go back to this, then we find out what video comes next. Infinite Rage, Blend Sonichu. Okay, fair enough. It might be Quick is Sad. Maybe this is the one. Oh no, it isn't. Really? They get the oh yeah, the Singstar challenge. Okay, announcement of rules. Showdown. It might be the number. It's not 5. It's because that's smell your. The contest purpose. Okay, so Chris still gets like incredibly upset about this because, well, here's Chris's rationale, and I know we're going this in a little bit of a different order, but it's worth it. I can show you.
I'm doing this new video to clear a record. The Singstar challenge was never to verify which one of us was the real Christian Wrestling Chandler, because everybody on the internet knows that I am, that he's the imposter. They should quit encouraging him. And I wish that he would quit his stupid, damn, dirty game. I don't know what the heck is wrong with his head. He ain't right. He don't even let me get a word in edgewise. He just keeps on going on and 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 on. Where's my father? Anyway, it was just basically a fun thing. Only for fun. It never was meant to determine who was who.
I thought it was, though, and why, if that was true, then why was Chris kicking off screaming and everything else? And by the way, this isn't even the end of it.
But just to play it safe, I'm going to give y'all the big sample.
Well, basically he just sings So Need a Cute Girl, which, well, yeah, and as summer disappeared, and let's get the normal, there we go. As the summer disappeared, so too did Liquid Chris, the apparent victim of foul play, because as a parody of The Dark Knight, Liquid was tied up and apparently kidnapped, and Casey announced that she was like their marriage was like being postponed. Chris's sweetheart, Casey, was distraught over the event and posted a video confirming Chris's disappearance and announcing her withdrawal from their engagement. I don't really know why you would withdraw from your engagement. You're engaged to be wed, unless Casey had absolute proof that Chris was dead, you would assume that would be the end of it. Apparently not, and since Chris I don't think Chris really thought either way about this, because Chris Solid probably just saw this as another opportunity to again get into Casey's pants. Speaking of Casey, Quick Civil War 2, Casey Boogaloo. Liquid Chris reappeared on the 15th of October 2009 with a new video explaining the trials and tribulations of the past few months, and igniting a heated love triangle with Solid for Casey's affections. According to Liquid, he had been unlawfully detained in a meat-packing factory, and when he managed to escape, he found himself in Africa. With the assistance of a few others, Liquid managed to make his triumphant return to Ruckersville, and the stage was set from there on out. In the video addressed to Casey's parents, Solid called him the previous Chris. In a desperate video for Casey, Solid called him the other Chris repeatedly. When the dust had settled, Solid's behaviour had offended Casey's father, but we will get to that, and through his immaturity pushed Casey back into the loving, true and honest arms of the Liquid. And yes, you can see of just Liquid returning home, trying to explain what had happened. Epilogue. Now, yes, if it does sound as if like we've just sort of like skipped a huge step, it's because the infamous Casey's father call, that deserves a video on its own because of its length and breadth. Just putting it out there. Epilogue. Liquid Chris is now married to his beloved sweetheart Casey, as the one true and honest creator of Sonichu. His artwork and comics are extremely popular, and he often attracts many beautiful boyfriend-free girls with his medallions and his guitar of Win. After Solid Chris destroyed his PlayStation 3 in an attempt to get a $9,000 bounty from Surfshark Tito, would mistakenly give the money to Liquid, under the belief that he was Solid. Liquid makes mad cash by selling medallions at Otakon and other anime conventions, whilst voicing Solid in Sonichu the animated series. He has also made several $100,000 from his two critically acclaimed games, Pokemon Lightning version and Sonichu the Crystal Chronicles, for the Nintendo DS and the Xbox 360, respectively. On the 27th of July 2011, Liquid bid fond adieu to the trolling universe on YouTube by closing his account. Solid Chris then considered Liquid Chris a friend, in spite of everything that Solid said to Liquid. After Chris Duckworth abandoned his Liquid Chris persona, he acquired a BS in oncology, and he currently works as a cancer research doctor. Time will tell if his findings will bring us one step closer to the cure. While Chris Duckworth has retired from trolling Solid Chris, he recorded a parody of the theme song to the Cleveland show at some point prior to November 2015. When the video was re-uploaded, the song was eventually animated as The Chris Chan Show in November 2020, which attracted the attention of Solid. Again. In the years since, Solid eventually forgot about much of the Liquid Chris saga. However, in the fall of 2019, Chris created a Twilight Sparkle secret shipfic folder card of Liquid Chris, showing he still had some animosity towards him. The card describes Liquid as a villain utilizing pretentious acting. During a February 2024 livestream, Chris refused to believe that Liquid Chris was a doctor, and said Liquid was trapped in his own stupor and mentality and arrogance and everything. What do you suppose would happen if, for example, Chris had to get, tested for cancer and he came across Liquid? Probably nothing, but you never know. Farewell to trolling. After ending his saga, Liquid wrote a long farewell to trolling before leaving the inner circle. Some people think that details such as Liquid trolling Solid for the recognition of Hayden Panettiere and being a conservative are ironic, but former trolls have confirmed that these are both unironic. He originally did it to impress Hayden. He was contacted by someone from PVCC, might have been Champ, I forgot who. He was a conservative, the rest of the stuff is all legitimate. From former PVCC member Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And this is his farewell letter. It was March of 2009 that I discovered Chris Chan thanks to an anonymous source. Slowly at first, and then knowing in horror the full extent, it was like watching an ancient accident happening in slow motion, and then all of a sudden the car explodes and the passengers' burned carcasses are ejected onto a bridge, causing havoc and crashes and ultimately wrecking the bridge. That's what Chris Chan was like to my life. But I still worked diligently and carried on with life as normal, as much as I possibly could, with the disturbing knowledge creeping silently in the back of my mind. On June 21st, 2009, I realised that I had a problem. I had some irrational crush on Hayden. It was summer. I was stuck at home. There'd be no hope of going to LA and getting some fairy tale-like treatment and ending up together with her and living happily ever after. So I thought, what could I do to express my anguish at possibly never coming in contact with her or gaining her attention? I had to gain her attention. Do something strange and epic. Something that would dispel my boredom. I thought of the Chris Chan impersonation I'd been doing off and off online, Left 4 Dead, on Xbox Live. So I went into my guest room and typed up a script containing most of my favourite Chris Chan lines. It wasn't that great of a script, and it was a dumb idea. It was also 1 a.m, which meant that if I talked louder than usual, my dad would wake up with supersonic hearing and bust my ass and make me go to sleep. I obtained an awkward-looking brown and tan polo. I turned on the camera and I just let it all out. About a week later, I saw that the creator of Sonichu, the animated series, commented on the impersonation I posted. Though in my mind it was still more about Hayden than getting recognized for a good impersonation, still, I was quite surprised to say the least. I quickly responded in kind and then put up another video, this time addressing him. He was impressed and asked me to start voicing Chris Chan for the animated series. I was honoured and flattered that this crew didn't reject my attempt at being funny. I made friends with a lot of them and then joined their production team. Stretch Douche, we talked quite a bit on Skype. It was the first time in a while I'd really felt involved with an internet community, so I kept it going. Soon enough, one of the editors of the Quickie, Champtum, contacted me on my YouTube account. He asked if I'd make a specialized video talking about my Sonichu merchandise, since someone had told Chris that someone else was selling them at Otakon. Already knee-deep in the Quick stuff, I couldn't refuse the offer. Then on July 22nd, Chris Chan posted a video, rage that he hadn't shown since days of Clyde Cash and Jimmy Hill, and it was all directed at me. I woke up that morning, signed on Skype, and Spaz Kid instantly told me all about what happened. I went to check the video and I was stunned. Stunned would be an understatement. I'd realised that Hayden was no longer relevant. I'd gotten Chris to respond to me. To me, a random YouTube user. It wasn't until later that I'd learned the field agents were more involved. I'd applied to PVCC about a month earlier with the nickname Neil to General Zod. It got lost in the void and I never received a reply. Another YouTuber described himself as Brian Bash contacted me and offered to get me right into the PVCC. Already I felt like I'd accomplished enough, that this was as good as it was going to get, and perhaps I would stop making videos, for Lord knows what could happen if everyone suddenly stopped playing along. I went on the PVCC for the first time to find out how big of a deal it was. This was a much larger active community than I'd expected. People who I'd never heard of before were hailing my actions as heroic, and blessed them for producing a bounty of beautiful rage I made since my first post, and people knew I was there. It wasn't long before I made another video. This time, I doubled down on Quick's jealousy and showed off the merch I'd taken a couple hours to gather together beforehand. It was a hit. Obviously, the man in the brown striped shirt was getting to him. Things were quiet. I enjoyed the animated series episodes, remade with my own voice, with ferocity. Then, I got an invitation from Yoko to join the Mumble chats. I'd heard only vaguely about Mumble. The things I did know were that Chris actually used the program to talk with Clyde Cash, and that it was a sister version of Skype. I followed Yoko's instructions and fell through the rabbit hole. It took me a second to realize who I was surrounded by. The only familiar faces were Yoko and Champton. Everyone else was an enigma, until, near the bottom of the screen, no, it couldn't have been, Clyde Cash, the legend himself. I simply remember thinking that it was indeed Clyde. Then everyone else here was important. What had I stumbled upon? What had I gotten myself into? I don't know any of these guys. I'm just some kid who did a Chris Chan impersonation, and yet here I was in the central of the inner circle, the dedicated trolls. I couldn't help but feel humbled. They accepted me as one of their own. I wasn't shocked to meet, never mind befriend, some extremely important people that I'd only just heard about and admired. Clyde, Blue Spike, Ivy, Emily, K9, and many others, each with their own saga or contribution. This can't be happening, I thought. But it did, and the story unfolded right before my very eyes. I collaborated with Clyde to make a fake Mumble chat. I tricked some hipsters who wanted to make money off of Chris Chan. I got my own ED page with nothing but praise, eventually being featured on the front page for an entire day. Keep in mind, this inner circle was me the entire way. I can't thank them enough. Now, however, it's time for me to make my long overdue au revoir. People don't know where I've been for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't talked to my best friend in 3 weeks. I've tried everything I could to manage my life and not look like a basement dweller. But it's not who I am. The real me is an ambitious, overly driven young man studying and working to become an MD, eventually a surgeon. But I can't have these dual lives and expect to have time for it all. I have to pick one, and I think it's pretty clear which road I'm taking. School for me starts soon. I've got time before then to catch up on my studies, but it's not going to be easy. It is, however, necessary, and I hate to say it, but even though I want to be around to find out what goes on behind the scenes after my saga is over, I can't. It's been fantastic, invidious, terrifying, and gut-bustingly hilarious, but I've got to return to normal life. It's simply gone on too long for me, and if you think I'm being way too self-centered here, well, I am, and I'm sorry, but it's the only way. I feel a certain sadness by leaving you all with no prior acknowledgement, however. It is, however, the only way. If I could say a few things before I'm gone, I'd like to. Admins, please ban my account after I post this message. I can't be tempted to distraction, and it kills me that I won't be able to say goodbye to anyone individually after this whole ordeal. PVCC, en general, you've been so awesome to me, more than I deserve. Keep on doing what you're doing because you're doing it right. I hope you'll keep the spirit of how awesome this was alive. Mumble. I'm sorry I can't do as many quick impersonations for you, whether reading emails, joking around, or tricking people, or Chris himself. I do apologize for that. Well, you're cool people. You're the nerdiest people that I've ever met in my life, and my friends would disown me if they ever knew I was associated with you. But you're just great. My ego. I'm sorry that the gigantic boost has to end, but I can only keep a fine balance between humbleness and elitism, and you know that. Clyde. I'm sorry we never got to debate politics. You seem quite progressive to me, a stark conservative Republican. We've had a hell of a time discussing history and policy, and I'll get these audiobook lines to you soon. Jen, thanks for being such a good sport. Your life is horrible and cursed, and I'm glad I can make it a little bit better for you. Anyone who put me in fan art, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm keeping all of it. It's hard to talk about all this like tomorrow will be the same, but I'm going now. Maybe you'll hear about me pioneering some surgical technique or medical research. Maybe you'll read my column in the paper or hear my radio show. I don't know what the future holds, but trolling can't be a part of it anymore, and I'm crushed to admit that. I don't think I'd make nearly as many friends and acquaintances over the summer as I have right here and on YouTube. It'll be hard to leave you all like this. I don't think I'd make any new friends at all, but you have proven me wrong. I have one final request. For all of you that are reading this or have scrolled to the bottom of it since it's too long don't read, please, if my true identity does get leaked, which it almost certainly will, I ask that you'll do whatever you can to keep it under wraps. Cover me, if you will. Be vigilant, believe, and thank you all so very much. Sincerely, C-Chan Sonichu Quick. P.S. I just won the game. Awesome. The irony. Solid has mocked Liquid on several points. His nasal tone, his brown striped shirt, actually making money off Sonichu, his appearance, and it's a bad sign when one fighting a mirror, and worse when the mirror is winning. Worse still, it is a funhouse mirror made especially to mock you. In early August 2009, Solid began to believe that Liquid couldn't be the real Chris because the only real Christian Western Chandler is that word who is the laughingstock of the internet. Therefore, the fact that Liquid isn't trolled and doesn't do dumb shit suggests that he isn't the real Chris at all. Of course, previously mentioned theories seem to disprove this assertion. In a further fit of irony, Solid ended up impersonating Liquid in a bizarre attempt to woo Liquid's girlfriend, Casey. And in a last-ditch bit of irony, Solid impersonated Liquid, who was impersonating or something, in whatever date that's meant to be. In the comics, despite being one of the most important events in Christry, the Liquid Chris saga is addressed in only 2 pages within the entirety of Sonichu. On the 17th of November 2009, Liquid made his very first appearance in Solid Chris's Sonichu issue 9. Solid, being the slanderous impersonator that he is, had the nerve to claim that Liquid's name was Ian Brandon Anderson, and once again tried and failed to convince everyone that he was the true original creator of the Sonichu franchise. Chris planned a future plot where Giovanni captured Rosechew and forced Chris to cede over control Liquid to Quickfill to Liquid. This, however, has yet to be done, and probably won't ever. Since Liquid's fate in the comic remained nebulous at best, Ben Saint commissioned a piece from Solid Chris that explained Liquid's ultimate fate. To the surprise of Saint himself, Chris actually delivered. The piece was revealed in a YouTube lecture by Saint on the timeline of the Sonichu canon, and included commentary by Beale, Sonichu, Rosechew, and Chris himself. So you want to know the fate of the past impersonator of Christian, as the original person was known? Simply put, IBA Chandler. He was dragged down to hell, punished of identity theft. You get dragged to hell for identity theft of all things, and all of his memories and past incarnations rest, or reset. His soul was born afresh, blank into a newborn child, and his old body was burned in hell's lava pool. I see. However, in Solitude issue 13, it is mentioned that an Ian Brandon Anderson was elected as head police chief of Quickville. Whether these two were meant to be the same character, thus making the commissioned comic page non-canon, or a totally different person with a similar name, was never explained. Yeah, I wonder. And I suppose with all that being said, that's kind of really it when it comes to the Liquid Chris saga. Essentially, it was a couple of months, but those months were nothing short of madness for Chris, because for Solid Chris, he fell for this so easily. And if Solid didn't fall for Liquid, believing that this was true and real, honestly, Liquid would never have made as many videos as he did, and he would never have won such high praise from other people, as we know. Because there is no way in hell that Solid Chris would have entertained Liquid for all the trolls for as long as he did, if he thought there was nothing in it. I know that, and you know that. But then once, Casey goes into the picture, then it's kind of, you begin to say, oh, I see, there's a bird involved, or a gal pal, or a boyfriend-free girl for Chris to get his clutches on, which we should be discussing next time. Though it must be said, the actual motivations for Casey seem to be incredibly selfish on the point of Solid. But with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys enjoyed the full article and the story of Liquid Chris, and listening to Christian nearly blowing out my eardrums with his screaming is just sort of par for the course, sadly. But with all that being said and done, I hope all of you guys enjoyed this article, and I cannot wait to see all of you guys again in the next video. So take care, and bye-bye for now.